guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast here on Toned In Entertainment. Today we got a big show planned, so of course I had to call in the big guns to assist me co-hosting this show. Julie Cutler is back here on Toned In Entertainment. Julie, how you doing?
I'm back. Tony, as always, thank you so much for having me. I feel like I've had an extremely busy July and August, and I was just chatting with you a little bit earlier before the show about how I feel like now, with summer winding down and the school season just around the corner, I have a little bit of downtime before I really get back into the swing of doing live shows again. So I feel like this was the perfect time for us to sort of come back together and crank out some interviews. And today we have a very exciting guest. I'm always very excited about the guests that we have on this show. But today we have a big guest, if I may, hailing from Providence, Rhode Island, standing at 6 feet and 12 inches tall,
too big for the screen,
weighing at 15% of a metric ton.
Somebody do the math.
Is Big Trouble, Ben Bishop.
Wow, Julie, good for you. That was a tremendous. I always rate podcasters on how they intro me, and that you got an A. You get an A.
And scene.
Thank you so
much,
Ben. That was really good. That was a lot of energy. You got everything right. So good job. I like.
I saved it. I save all of my entrance announcement notes for everybody, so I came prepared.
Good.
But we are super excited.
I was gonna say, I love that intro song you guys had. I'm gonna date myself, but it sounded like Sonic on Sega Genesis. It had a very like one of the first few levels that you play on Sonic, and that brought me back a little bit. That intro was great. I really like that.
I'm a retro guy. You got to have the retro music to get you warmed up.
That brought me back to my childhood. I loved it.
That's awesome.
I've got one thing, though. I got kind of a nitpick there on the introduction there, Julie, because I think you did miss one thing about the height, because I've heard him announced at the size of 3 hornswoggles as well, too. Does that come in as 6 foot 12 inches?
Every now. Yeah, the one time me and him got in the ring and he punched me below the belt. Below the belt. But I guess that's I let it slide because it's him. So
yeah, the announcer did say he's at the height of 3 hornswoggles. So I mean, just a little thing in there.
It's interesting that he would just go right in and steal Richard Holliday's signature move.
Yeah, no, he did. Well, it was more of a punch than
okay.
Yeah, he was right there, so he just right there.
So it wasn't really the signature move. It was more of
it was just his right hook, right? But
fair enough.
He didn't, just exactly where I guess it needed to be, right below the belt. No.
It did the job, unfortunately.
Sure
Unfortunately. Well, Ben, we're super excited to have you today. I know we have a lot of questions for you, but to dive right into probably the most relevant one, we've seen a lot of funny little vignettes and teasers here and there on your social media recently about your WWE tryout that took place during SummerSlam weekend. We were just chatting about that a little bit before the show. That was in Newark, New Jersey.
Beautiful
the first
Newark,
weekend.
New Jersey.
Gorgeous.
Picturesque Newark, New Jersey. God's country.
Yes. And that was the first weekend in August. I know there might be some limited information that you're able to share about that at this point in time, but based on what you are able to share and talk about, can you tell us a little bit about that experience, maybe a little bit about how that came about and sort of what you learned, some of the people you met, and what were the big takeaways?
I'll bring it back about 4.5 years ago. I actually had a tryout. I had my first tryout with WWE, and it was really kept under wraps. Like they didn't announce anybody. It was in the PC, and it wasn't even actually at it was actually kind of technically a little offsite, really just down the road at another building because it was during COVID and there was a bunch of stuff going on. And they didn't, and there was like nothing posted. This one, it's like it was all over social media. Like the WWE recruit page did a great job posting the videos, and the clips, and the pictures. Sean Ross Sapp was the one that leaked the news. I didn't tell him, so I don't know who did. But so there was a bunch of like social media activity around this tryout, and people kept never seen that before. So I think that's something new that they're doing. They also invited people to the tryout to like pay with I forget the name of the company that did it on location. And you could go to the tryout, and it was the second day of it, and you could watch us run the ropes and roll and do some stuff, and then just watch the people cut promos. That was pretty cool. So it was really more open than it was in the past. But honestly, so bringing it back to this tryout, I it's something obviously all wrestlers strive for, right? I think majority of wrestlers, I don't want to speak for everybody, but most would say that they want to be in the WWE. A lot of independent wrestlers, it's something that is a dream of theirs. And, the first step is really to get a tryout nowadays. So, just been working over the past 2 years, really trying to get my name out there and get more of a brand. And, these videos that I've been doing for the past two some odd years has really grown my personal brand, shown my personality, put me on the map with a lot of people, put me on the radar, not just because of my size, or my ability. It's really because of these videos, and people wanted to see them. And it's just a new way for people to see, and utilizing social medias, learning from guys like Matt Cardona, or watching guys like Danhausen, Joe Hendry in the past year, what they've been able to do on social media and been able to grow their brand. It's something that I wanted to follow suit in. And because I've always considered myself pretty good at social media, but just try to find my niche. So this tryout, after my last one, I knew, it's something I really had to work hard and be ready for. It's not a secret, I'm no spring chicken. I'm 35 years old, so I had to come in and be ready to go, like physically as well mentally, and just want to keep up with everybody. So they brought us in to, like I said, beautiful Newark, New Jersey. There were 51 of us this time around. So that was a mix of athletes as well as independent wrestlers. So it was about 17 independent wrestlers, about 34 athletes at this tryout. So 51 total. And I want to say this. A lot of people give a lot of athletes like slack. A lot of independent wrestlers be like, oh, they always bring in athletes, this, that, and the other. And, you can't get mad at them, right? Like it's something that, that's what WWE wants. And you can't get mad at these athletes because they're just getting contacted to go to this tryout. And I want to say that every single one was so respectful the entire tryout. There was nobody that was thinking they were above this. There was nobody that was saying like, oh, I guess I'll try this stupid wrestling thing, or like, because their sport didn't work out for them. Nobody was like that. They were all respectful. A lot of them were saying they were D1 football players, guys who played high major, like Mountain West, Pac-10, and they were saying these were some of the hardest work. They were saying they were the most sore after 3 days of a tryout than they've ever been. And these are guys who've done Division I high major 2-a-days, and playing football. So it was really amazing to kind of like hear that and like have all the respect they had. And even when watching the 5-minute matches that we had during the tryout, a lot of them were just like, I can't believe you guys like do this. Like after a day of doing drills and doing the bumps and the rolls and hitting the ropes, they were just like, we have so much respect for you guys doing this. The tryout took place in New Jersey Institute of Technology. It was all done up. It was on their basketball court. There were 4 rings set up. There was a whole stage set up so we could do promos. And that's what I really liked about this tryout. They really focused on promos. They focused on character. That was really big. It wasn't just like, hey, we're just going to do drills. We're going to focus on like, what makes a wrestler. And that's promos. We did our intro promo. We did promos before the matches that we had. Each independent wrestler had 2 matches each. And I thought it was really well done. I said they kind of rolling out the red carpet. They did breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got a shuttle to every day back and forth between New Jersey Institute of Technology and the hotel. They had like a recovery room set up for us, so they really took care of us, and I thought it was extremely well done. The talent development team, worked their asses off to do this. It was really a large undertaking for a whole week to do something. And the days were long. everyone asked me like, what was the hardest part of the tryout? And I say it was really mentally. I said if it was physically hard, but mentally, we were there 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, so you had to be on the whole time, and you had to have high energy the entire time. And there was no lulls. You'd go for 2.5 hours, maybe you have an hour break, then you'd go, then you had to do a promo, then you have an hour break, then you go again, then you have another session, then you have a break, then you have a match. So it was a lot of stuff to make sure that you had to stay up the entire time. But it was an incredible experience. It was a great group of people. The independent wrestlers there were great. Like I said, the athletes were great. The coaches that were there, there was like, Bloom and Regal and Smiley and Johnny Moss and Robbie Brookside and Steve Carino, and then a few NXT wrestlers as well were there to help out. It was really an amazing experience. And I think that, well, we're all kind of still in the dark. So we are all still waiting. We all are still waiting. But and it's funny because a lot of the athletes are kind of like, they're antsy, and I'm like, I'll just welcome to professional wrestling. Hurry up and wait, So it's fine. It's a big decision on their end. So we're just kind of sitting and waiting, and we'll see what happens. Personally, I am very proud of what I was able to do and what I was able to show. At the end of the day, I'm not going to lie, if it's a no, I'll be bummed, but if it's but at the end of the day, I'm happy and I'm proud of what I was able to do. So we'll see what happens.
How does that make you feel like when you hear athletes? Because I know like people outside of the pro wrestling world, like just say friends or coworkers, like they know what I do. Like, oh, you do the interviews, pro wrestling. It doesn't really hurt. It doesn't do that. But right. And it's like, I can't explain to them because I've never been inside the ring as a wrestler. I've only done interviews.
Yeah.
So I tried to explain, but like I can't give firsthand experience, obviously. But to hear that coming from these athletes, these big athletes, that are like, oh, damn, like, a lot of respect for you guys and girls for what you do.
It was really funny, Tony, because on the second session, we learned to run the ropes. They learned to hit the ropes. And after that, like all of us independent wrestlers are laughing because they kept going up to the mirror, pulling up the back of their shirts and looking at the bruises on their back. And they were, because they didn't think it would hurt. They were like, we did not think this was going to hurt as bad as it did. They all had the bruises across everything. So they were like, how do you guys keep doing this? Like eventually they kind of calluses over and you kind of just get used to it. But they were like, man, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, wait until we do the bumps and wait for that. When we did that, they were like, yeah, okay, now we get it a little bit more. Like the rolls are the roll. I mean, rolls, they'll blow you up cardio wise, but it's not going to hurt your body as much. But then when you start hitting the ropes and you start taking the bumps, they learned really quick. They're like, oh, okay, this is not as giving as we thought it was, as forgiving as we thought it was going to be.
Right. And one thing that I was going to ask too, I feel like I have so many questions about the tryout process, but something that I'm really interested in is from the perspective of someone that's been working on the indies. And I know a handful of the other independent talents that were there as well. I saw LJ Clary was there, good friend of mine, and some other notable names. So like if you're coming in as an independent talent, you already have a pretty solid idea of who you are and what kind of promos you might want to cut just as like an introduction and things of that nature. But did you get to see any of the process of, like, for example, these athletes coming in that maybe don't, know that side of wrestling yet, or maybe don't have a sense of character? Like, how do they get sort of prepped?
Yeah,
Get thrown up on stage and be like, all right, you're going to cut a promo now. Like, this is your character.
I really hand it to them because a lot of them did such a better job than I thought they would. Like they really went up there and kudos to them because I was always a wrestling fan. So I felt like I would have been able to come up with something if I was coming out of school and because I was an athlete as well in college. Mm-hmm. So I felt like if I had the opportunity that I think I could have figured it out.
Right.
But, some of them were coming in. They're not like the biggest, like they know it. They're not like the biggest wrestling fans, but they did a really, really good job. There was one individual who, It's always been his dream to be. So I thought that was really cool. He wasn't an independent wrestler. He was an athlete. He was an amateur wrestler, but he's always loved WWE, and he was so pumped for this. And I was really excited for him, and he did a great job. His name was Aiden. And Aiden was great the whole time, and he really did an awesome job. But everybody really did. I couldn't think that there was one person that like I would have said like, oh man, it was pretty rough. Like I really handed to him, because that's tough to go up there and cut a minute promo. And like, again, the coaches there aren't there. Like they're not there to coach really, right? Like they're there judging, because it's a tryout. It's not a teaching seminar or anything like that. So you're going up there and there's no reactions. So they're just staring at you. And you're cutting this promo on a stage with a big light in your face, and you're just waiting, and Ryan Katz is the creative director in NXT, is like counting down and show. So, so you have about 60 seconds to 75 seconds to cut this promo. That's tough, especially with no reactions or nobody's really giving you anything. They're just staring at you straight faced. So, I thought it was really interesting what a lot of these, guys and gals were able to come up with, because it was, I know how tough that is, especially not being used to it. But they really knocked it out of the park, especially for their first time cutting a promo.
I want to bring in a question from Mosh Pit Messiah. He says, did you feel, being 35 in the wrestling scene, does it play with your mental game? If so, how do you prep for that?
Actually, it helps. It helps because it helps being a little bit older, a little bit more mature, in professional wrestling, being 35 years old. I mean, every now and then you feel it, but I don't. I'll say I don't look 35. A lot of people think I'm younger than 35.
I was surprised when you said you were 35.
I thought you were upper 20s for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. So again, that's good. I look at a lot of pictures of. It's funny, you see like wrestlers in the 80s, like this is what they look like at 35. It's like, oh man.
It's crazy. My wife says like Ric Flair's always look like he's,
yeah, right. So that's the thing. So yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of past that in this day and age, where a lot of, when you were 35, and if it was the 80s or the 90s, it was like, oh man, you're basically 2 or 3 years from being done. But you got to think, look at guys like DDP, who didn't start till he was 33. Kevin Nash didn't start till he was around 31, 32. I started at 29, so, and now, I mean, even in the WWE, you have Damian Priest, who didn't get to WWE till he was 37. You have LA Knight, who didn't get there until he was 36. CM Punk still at the top of his game at 47. So, it's not as glaring as it used to be. It's been 60 since I was born. Yeah. Really though, seriously. But so it's not as like glaring as it kind of used to be. It's just, obviously, when you're 35, it's just science. You gotta train a little bit different. You gotta be cognizant of your body. You don't recover like you were when you were 22. So a lot of chiropractor visits, making sure, making sure I actually take time to stretch and don't ego lift like I used to. Try to be smarter when training. But you have to train a little bit harder, because you gotta make sure that I can keep up with 22, 23-year-olds, which I was able to do, and I'm proud of myself for it. And of course, being, my size, being 6'10", oh God, killing kayfabe, 6'12", 6'12", we're rounding up. Being my size, and I gotta, it's a lot of drills in professional wrestling are made for smaller individuals. So it's the rolls and all that, and getting up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not made for big guys, so, but you gotta do the drills the same as everybody else. So it was really important. I didn't want to go in and my issue be cardio, or my issue be physical, right? So I made sure that for 2.5 months, when I knew I had the tryout, was that I was going to push myself as hard as I ever could in the gym, but also on the same side, towing the line between recovery and working hard.
Mountain Bike Q&A says 6'10", a big boy.
Big
He's
boy.
6'12". He's
6'12".
6'12",
I
actually.
misspoke.
He
6'12".
misspoke. He made a mistake.
Misspoke.
He's 6'12". Yeah.
Ben, I think you brought up a really great point too that I want to circle back to, because it reminded me of, I think it was 2023. We had Luke Curtis on the show, and I think he was one of the first guests that Tony and I had actually interviewed together. It was right around the time that Wrestlers had come out on Netflix. And we were talking with him about how he had started his wrestling journey. I think he must be like in his early 30s as well. Don't quote me on that because I don't know his exact age, but we were kind of talking about starting your wrestling journey like on the later side, and how, you see some of these kids now, some of these young athletes, and they're getting pulled like right after they graduate from college. So they're probably about 22, 23 years old. But in our conversation, we were just saying, we felt that there was a lot of valuable life experience that you have like between 20 and 30 that really gives you just a better idea of like who you are as a person and how you might handle yourself in certain situations, how you'd like to, present yourself as a character and as a just like a human being on social media. I know from my perspective, like I didn't really start doing any live shows. I think my first live show that I did, I was maybe 28, I want to say. And so I don't think, like, looking at it from my own perspective, I don't know that I would have been ready, to be honest, like at a younger age when I was in my early 20s. I was at such a different place in my life. So do you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but do you feel like maybe, starting when you're 29, like you had some life experiences that sort of gave you certain pieces of wisdom that you feel have benefited you in your wrestling journey, as opposed to maybe if you were younger and you didn't have that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I lived a full life before I started wrestling. I know a lot of people, and a lot of people start very young. And I mean, you brought up LJ Cleary, who I think he said he started when he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
I think that's super impressive, and I love LJ. He's a great human being. He's an awesome wrestler.
Very sweet.
He's incredible. So honestly, like I felt it was better for me though, like, especially when it comes to presenting yourself in public. I mean, I played college basketball at the Division I level, and you learn really quick what you can say on the internet and what you can't say on the internet. So that teaches you right there. So now you know how to conduct yourself, and what, the internet never forgets, and they'll always, because we had people hawking us, at Vermont. We weren't a huge school. We weren't like a high major program, but we were one of the top programs at UVM. So they were looking, it wasn't like, and this is nothing against them, at the time, we weren't like the lacrosse team, who weren't as good as the Sorry Boys. Sorry Boys. Now they're very good. They're a very good team now. But at the time, they did not have as good of a team. So they kind of, nobody paid attention to them as much. But for hockey and basketball, they paid attention to us a lot. So we had to be on top of our game. We couldn't be saying anything on the internet that might put us in jeopardy, or the team in jeopardy. So I learned that really quick. And then, life experiences. I mean, after college, I got my master's degree. I have had a real job since I was out of college. So I shouldn't say that. I don't, you know what I mean, but I've had a 9 to 5. Shoot job outside of wrestling. I always feel bad saying real. I shouldn't say that. But I've always been in corporate America, and I've worked in real life experiences. And I think it's amazing that people can grow up in wrestling, and LJ's turned out to be an incredible human being, and he's awesome. Love hanging out with the guy. He's a lot of fun. But I also think that people need to have interests outside of wrestling as well. I think it's, if your life is all wrestling and only you have friends in wrestling, and you have nothing else that like outside of the bubble of wrestling, I think a lot of people get stuck in that, and it can, it can either hinder kind of your development as a professional wrestler. So as much as I say sometimes, like, man, I think it would have been beneficial to me if I started at 22, 23 years old. I don't mind that I started at 29. And I think that it was better at my life with where I was in my life that I started then, because and also what a lot of people don't think about is financially, because wrestling can be very difficult financially. Getting on the road, especially when you're starting out and paying paying for gear and paying for getting to shows and training and all this stuff, I was in a better spot at 29 than I would have been at 22, 23 years old. So would my development not has been as expedited as it was when I was 29 and I could get to shows and I could pay for things, and it wasn't as much of a burden than maybe when I was 22, 23, when would have had a lot tougher time. And so maybe it wouldn't even, I would have started earlier, but I wouldn't have had the experiences as quick as I did because I was able to afford it. So it kind of, it's like give and take. So I as much as I say like, maybe it would have been better to start like 26, 27. I'm not playing like the hindsight or the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. It happened when it happened. And it happened at a good time in my life. And it's interesting how it did happen too, because I didn't, to go off on like a mini tangent here. I mean, not tangent, but
we went to tangent.
On a side story, like an anecdote here. I wasn't ever thinking about doing this. So I wasn't like, I'm going to go to wrestling school. I want to do this. I'll be completely honest. I always thought I wanted to, but I remember I was like, maybe it's not too realistic, right? I had a few injuries in college, and people kept telling me, why don't you give wrestling a try? You love it so much. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to be realistic. I want to be practical. I'm going to go get my master's. Maybe I'll just be a fan. Maybe I'll be that's fine. I'll just be a fan. I'll watch it. And it's kind of my little escapism. Until one day, it was in September of 2019. And I was listening to Busted Open Radio, and Enzo was on, and he was talking about, his life after WWE. And at the time, when Big Cass was going through some challenges, he was talking about that too. But then he started promoting some of his stuff. And so happened, he was in Baltimore, right outside of Baltimore. And that's where I lived at the time. So I lived in Columbia, Maryland. And I saw like, it's 20 minutes away from where I live. My wife was dog sitting for a friend. I had nothing to do on that Friday night. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to go. The show was Adrenaline Championship Wrestling in Maryland. I went, I almost didn't go. So I bought the ticket earlier that day. I was like, I'll grab $25 ticket. I'm like, I'll get it. I haven't been to an independent show in a long time. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I was playing Madden on my couch. I almost did not go to this show. I was very close. Like it was the last second where I was like, all right, it was like 7:40. The show started at 8. I said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I got to get out of the house. Something just told me get out of the house. So I did. I went, started up the first match already started. I walked and almost couldn't find the place, almost turned around again. And because I could not find this place, as you know, some independent shows, it's hard to find the building.
Yeah.
So I can't find this building. And then finally, it is
very important.
I was doing really well. I had a great league going there, a franchise league. So, so I get to the building. I finally pull up. The first match is in the ring. I get there. And as soon as I walk in, people are kind of turning and looking because Enzo's there. So they see a tall guy walk in. So they initially kind of think it's Big Cass for a second, and then they kind of realize it's not. But so I just sit there. I'm enjoying the show. And intermission comes. I stand up and I just kind of stand in the back. I'm like, all right, in a second I'll get in line to meet Enzo because I've always wanted to meet him. And Gilbert walks up to me. So Dwayne Gill walks up to me, and he says, "Are you a worker? Who are you? Are you a worker?" And I didn't know what that meant. So I said, "I have a job."
You are.
I had no idea because I'm not like I wasn't like really like an internet fan. I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know anything. So I just was. I liked wrestling a lot, but I just watched it on TV. So I didn't.
Right.
That was it. So he was like, "No, man. Are you a worker or are you a wrestler?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Do you want to be?" I said, "Sure. I don't know. Is that it? No, you just sign up." Like, and he walked me up to James Ellsworth, and Ellsworth took a look at me and was like, "Who the hell are you?" And I was like, "Mom, Ben, just Ben." And he's like, "What, do you want to be a wrestler?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Okay." So literally that night, I met a bunch of the guys from ACW, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, and the next day I started training. I always shout out Nick Taylor. He goes by Sickened on the independent circuit. He trained me and taught me a lot of like the basics and the moves and all that. And he was the first person to take a lot of the moves that I learned. So kudos to him, for doing all that and working with me. A lot of times it was just me and him, and he took his time out of his day, and we would train. But then James Ellsworth would train with me a lot. You go on the road. We went to Tennessee a lot, learning a lot of stuff in the car, and learning a lot about the ins and outs of wrestling, the psychology of it. And he trained me a lot on that, and just kind of like on the job training, almost like throw me to the wolves kind of, after about 6.5 months of training. So yeah, it was just kind of funny how it happened. It was very like fate, if I didn't get up if I wasn't listening to Busted Open that day, if I didn't get up off the couch, a lot of those things where it's funny of like, I wouldn't be sitting here. Right. I would not, it just would never have happened, but it was just kind of something telling me like, go to the show, go do something, go.
It's so interesting to hear, because I feel like I think about this with myself all the time, but just how chains of events like that can lead you from point A to like such an important point B.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how that like it really like it's just so many things had to fall into place, and like it's not as morbid as like a Final Destination, but you watch a movie like that, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it's just like little things that just happen, and almost like a butterfly effect, right? What if I never listened to Busted Open Radio that day? Like what if I didn't want to? What if my wife wasn't dog sitting and we had plans to do something else? Nothing wrong with that. It would have been great, but you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have went to the show because she wasn't coming. She wasn't going to go to the
So when you came home and you got this opportunity to go train, and you start maybe telling like some friends and family and your wife and the people around you, are like, hey, like this happened at the show, and now I'm heading to training. What was the initial reaction?
Everybody was really like supportive, and they were just like, finally, like,
Yeah.
they're like, finally you're doing it. And I was like, I know, I should have done it a while ago. They're like, no, I think everybody thought it was really cool. They're like, you know what? It's like, yeah, give it a shot. My dad was like, yeah, you know what? Because he's always was the more practical, realistic one. And I always said, I remember after college, I'm like, maybe I want to train to be a wrestler. And he goes, you just got into grad school. He's like, no, like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So, but even he was like, you know what? Have fun, do it. Like, it's like, see what comes of it. And everybody, even my wife, and she kind of learned about like, there were going to be times where I leave on weekends and things. And she was like, you know what? It's your dream. You gotta try to live it. And one of the coolest things I heard from one of my friends, this was about 2.5 years ago, because a lot of times you miss so much stuff as a wrestler, and because you're going on weekends, and you're going to like, sometimes you're going to like dumpy towns, and nothing against it, but like middle of nowhere in like Mississippi, Tennessee, places I've been. And I see my friends, they're out, like my buddies that live in New York, or my buddies that live in Los Angeles, and they're all going to bars, they're having a good time, and you're watching it, and I'm like, I'm in this like rundown locker room. And you're right, Mosh Pit, you're 100% right, never too old to chase your dream. But I'm like, you know what, is it, you kind of think of it like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? But I remember I was at a wedding for a friend, and we had a bunch of our friends. It was in the Dominican Republic, and a buddy of mine pulled me aside, and he just asked me, he's like, how's everything going, with wrestling and all that? I'm like, it's fun, man. I enjoy it, but it's like, yeah, I see you guys, like, I see you and, your buddies, and you guys seem like you're having such a great time in New York. And sometimes I feel like, man, is it worth it? And he goes, no, dude, it's 100% worth it. He goes, we watch you and we wish we were doing that. Like, we wish we were following a dream like that. Like, yeah, like, you see us go out and you see us have a good time, but like our dream isn't working on Wall Street, or our dream isn't being in finance, like, it's like we live a good life, but like, it's cool to see that you're doing something that we all wish we could do. And we wish we could follow a dream like that. And so that was really cool to hear. And honestly, it was just it like kind of gave me like, more motivation to be like, okay, that is true. Because sometimes you forget about that. You don't think about that. And you just think like, you're almost an inspiration to other people who will see you doing it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people give it up, whether it be whether it be music or wrestling or comedy or acting or anything, that involves a lot of work, a lot of paying dues, and very little reward. A lot of people just give it up. So when a lot of my friends have said that we've seen you over the years just continue to work at it, it's like you might not think it, but it's an inspiration. And so that was really cool to hear. And it kind of, one of the things that really kept me going, when even I thought of times of like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? But it turns out that it's definitely been worth it.
That's so awesome to hear. It's such a we live such short lives, and like our time passes by so fast. It's great to like have those things that keep us going and make us happy. And to piggyback off of your thing about like, you taking your chance, it was like two guys that you have crossed paths with is what inspired me to jump into this, which was Hornswoggle and Scott Steiner, because how I got my start was I went to a independent show. I hadn't been to a show in years. Like I'd stopped watching WWE. There was no AEW at the time. And I went to the show only because Scott Steiner was on the flyer at Gangrel's Wrestling Asylum.
I love Dave. He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. But he was running the show, and I went there, and I was like, had Scott Steiner not been on that flyer, I probably wouldn't have gone. But like, I that night I was like, I want to do something.
Yeah,
because I was like, who are these independent guys that are out here? I didn't know any of them, but like fell in love with it just going to that one show. And I always try to encourage people, like, even if you don't like what's on TV, like come out to the local show, like give it a shot. Or if you haven't watched it in years, it's so different.
I say that to everybody, and because a lot of friends and stuff like you'll go to like see bands at a bar, right? And you're like, oh, that was awesome. That band was great. There was only like 200, 300 people, but it was a blast. And I was like, well, that's kind of like independent wrestling. It's more intimate. You're going to be more involved with it. And I always see people, not just my friends, but I see a lot of people at shows be like, I've never been to one of these, but this was so fun.
Yeah.
Like I had a blast. And I'm like, oh, did you ever watch wrestling? It's like, yeah, here and there on TV, I'll turn it on. I watched it. Everyone says it. I watched it with Stone Cold and The Rock and DX. They always say the same thing, right? When the most people were watching. But he's like, oh, this was a blast, man. It was so much fun. We had a great time. And wrestling and booze go together very well. So
yes,
usually that helps. But they're just like, we just had so much fun. This was great. Like, how often do you guys come here? Are you guys coming back? And I say it to a lot of people. It's like, go to the independent wrestling shows. I get it. It's not the TV guys and girls, but like you might have one there. Like I was just on a show in Kansas, outside of Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas, and I worked Nick Nemeth. I wrestled Nick, and a lot of people there. It's like we don't see. There's very little chance for us ever to meet Nick Nemeth. In right. Overland Park, Kansas. Like it's not like TNA's running there right now. So they come out and they're like, "This is so great. We get a chance to meet a guy that we watched on TV, and oh look, we get to also see some independent wrestlers we've never seen before." And I don't work out there in Kansas, but there was a local show that was involved and working in. So maybe they'll get some people to go to their shows now because they came out to see Nick. So I say that to everybody, like, go check out an independent wrestling show. It can be a lot of fun. There's some not great ones out there, which unfortunately is
pick
like
your
the
poisons,
nature.
right?
But there's also some not great bands and not great comedians.
Yeah.
And so, so you can go to a comedy show and see bad comedians or or you can go to a venue and see a horrible band, so like it's just that's the nature of the beast. But it's not going to stop you from watching comedy or stop you from listening to music because you saw a bad band. Why would it stop you from going to another wrestling show? So that's what that's how I kind of explain it to people, because it's like, because a lot of people, when they look at wrestling, normal, it's like you see one independent wrestling show, you think that's what it all is, right? It's like because it's not as because music and comedy are obviously more mainstream. So I try to tell people, like, it's not all the same. So don't paint think of it as like there's levels to this. So you can see a lot better wrestling if you choose the right ones to go to.
Right. I feel similarly whenever I'm like out and about advertising a show. You get the people that come up to you and you're handing out flyers or whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh, is it like WWE?" And I'm like, "Well,
of course.
kind of." I'm like, you might see, to your point, like a Nick Nemeth or someone who has that TV experience, but like the other thing that I always hype up to people, I'm like, there's a lot of really talented people on this show that maybe weren't like they haven't been in WWE yet, but like that's the trajectory that they're on. Like one of the companies that I work for pretty regularly, one of the first guys that I met a couple of years ago when I started working with them was Brad Baylor, who's one of the WWE ID prospects now. And so I always tell people, I'm like, well, you know, they're not on TV yet, but like you might see them here first before they go on to like be a part of WWE and be super famous and, you know, go on to be the next John Cena. I'm like, this is where you're going to like meet them and have a conversation with them and get your picture taken with them. And like, you don't know who they're going to become after this. So
I mean, look at guys like Punk and Danielson through the years.
Yeah.
They were on the indies forever. And like people can say like, I saw him in a high school gym in front of 130 people. You know, and I met him and I got to say hi. Samoa Joe. I mean, down the line, Seth Rollins was on the indies forever. Dean Ambrose, John Moxley was on the indies forever. So it's you can see these and a lot of people, you know, of course, you know, with any type of entertainment, anything that's subjective, you're going to have the trolls and the people that hate on it and call the indies bad and this, that, and the other, right? And again, there's some bad ones, but there's a lot of awesome talent. Like you mentioned, Brad's an amazing talent. And like, why wouldn't you want to go out? And if you can say, like, think of it this way, like, I mean, I'm not trying to compare us to Bruce Springsteen, but think of all the people that saw Bruce Springsteen before, or Bon Jovi on the Jersey Shore before they got huge. You could say, I saw him at the Stone Pony, you know, and I saw him before he was Bruce Springsteen. And that's the same for indie wrestling. You might go out and you could see a Brad Baylor who can become the next Seth Rollins. You know, and you could see him at an Armory or a VFW or the White Eagle in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Right. Like, and you can say like, I got a picture with him. I actually talked to him, and now look at it. He's a giant star, and it's like you can create those memories, and you never know, but you're never going to know unless you go, right? Unless you go to the show, you're never going to know.
Exactly. And I was going to ask you two questions. So, as we were talking about, you know, various people who have come up on the indies, one of my favorite matches to watch on YouTube is Bryan Danielson and Finn Balor, where they wrestled in front of like 25 people. I don't know if it was like a VFW or what it was, but that's like one of my favorite old matches to go back and watch. Do you have any old like indie matches like that you like to go back and watch for inspiration?
You know, I was never a huge, when I was watching wrestling, I didn't really know much about the indies when I was watching wrestling. So I knew a little bit. I heard of certain indies. I wasn't really like a big internet fan. So I didn't really know. I just watched like what was on TV. I watched TNA through the years. I watched WWE. So I could say like I wasn't a good fan when it came to the indies because I just didn't. I didn't know where it was or I didn't really pay attention.
A lot of people didn't. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. And I think
until like relatively recently.
Really,
I feel like blown up.
I think especially since like maybe like 2017, 2018, and really AEW, I think had a major part in that, of putting more of an emphasis on the indies, especially with AEW Dark. And people can say what they want about that, but that got a lot of people on the map, and people watched. Those views were great on YouTube, and people still come up to me like, "Oh, I remember seeing you on AEW Dark," and that was 3.5, 4 years ago. You know, the two stints I had on it. So, but then I think that was tremendous for the indies and getting people more recognition and saying like, oh, you know, you worked an AEW match against whoever it may be. Mine was against Bear Bronson and Preston Vance on Dark. And so that put more of an emphasis. But I remember when I first started, I did watch a lot of Beyond matches. I remember watching a lot of Orange Cassidy matches. I thought I was just enthralled by the guy. I was like, this is so funny, you know, because I like the goofy stuff. So I enjoyed watching stuff of his, and I just realized there was such a world out there of like independent wrestling that I just never knew really existed. Like I knew a little bit, but not to the extent. I remember like the first indie show I went to was in 2014, and it was in Rhode Island where I'm from. And it was at the West Warwick Civic Center, which is not a civic center. It's literally 3 basketball courts in this hot, like tin can in West Warwick, Rhode Island. And I used to play basketball there in like summer league. And I'm like, they're having an independent wrestling show. And the card on this show is XWA. And the card was like Matt Taven, Eddie Edwards, the War Raiders, Tommaso Ciampa, Red Dragon, with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Who else was on this card? Colt Cabana. The card was unbelievable, and it was in the West Warwick of all places, like a place I played summer league basketball in when I was a kid. In this, a hot, like kind of run down building, and just this like amazing card. Now you look at it, looking back, and like all these guys, a lot of them were in WWE, AEW, and have had tremendous careers. And but that's where I saw them, wasn't this like W place. So I just realized, man, there's a whole world out here of independent wrestling that like I've been missing. And I can't say there's like one match I go back and watch, but I've definitely gone back and watched a lot of pretty good matches through the years of different shows.
I want to pull up one of the comments and then kind of pull a question off of it. But first, Kayla says, "Hey, Julie, what's going on?"
Kayla, it's the Bombshell Beauty, Kayla Lopez, the artist formerly known as Kayla Carroll, one of my best friends, who's also a worker.
But Mountain Bike Q&A, who has an awesome mountain bike, podcast as well. He says he doesn't want to take a hit from you. So playing off a mountain bike Q&A, what would hurt more, falling off a mountain bike or getting hit by Big Trouble Ben Bishop?
Well, I mean, falling from up here is pretty high. So I think when you fall from either a choke slam or a power bomb from me, I mean, you're falling from pretty high. So it's probably going to hurt a little bit more than falling off a mountain bike. That just depends. I don't know. I can't speak. I don't do much mountain biking. My size isn't made for mountain biking, but I'm going to assume it might hurt a little bit more if you fall from all the way up from, damn near 8 feet, 9 feet in the air.
Now we're just adding a couple feet.
Well, I mean, when I put my hand up.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Keep rounding up.
Exactly.
Mosh Pit brought up a comment that he helped AJ Francis carry a table at a CCW show years ago. Now he's killing it in TNA.
Wow, AJ was carrying a table. Wow, you got him to carry a table? I can't believe that. I don't know.
Was carrying the table for him.
Yeah, Mosh Pit, were you carrying the table?
Yeah.
I can't see AJ Francis carrying the table.
He helped, which I think he did it.
It was a communal effort.
That's a guy who I think has done such a tremendous job after being released by WWE. He doesn't get enough credit.
He's so nice too.
He's so nice.
He'll give friends with everyone.
Oh, he's great. He's great, and he's a character, and he'll give himself all the credit. That's for sure. But I love the guy. I love AJ. He's he means so well. He's a great dude. I don't want to keep killing. I'm going to keep killing his character here. But he's been doing a tremendous job in TNA and kind of reinventing himself a bit and staying active on the indies, not just resting on his laurels. And yeah, I always love running. I worked a match with him in February. Really enjoyed it. He's a tremendous worker, especially for a big guy. People do not give him enough credit that he does deserve. Again, he'll give himself the credit, so maybe you don't have to. But he said, I do think the world of AJ, and I do think that TNA's got really special talent in him, and I'm happy that he's there.
Yeah, he had some banger matches right after he came out of WWE down at CCW against a guy that you just had a match with this past weekend, Charlie.
That was fun. I mean, talk about a territory legend. There's not many of them anymore.
100%.
And Charlie sure is, especially in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I think, like I said, a lot of indies get bad reps, I think, but I always like to highlight the really good ones. And CCW through the years has done a tremendous job. I'm really happy that this year I was able to get involved with CCW. I think the world of them. I think of the world of everybody on their roster, whether it be, I mostly do the Nashville shows, but I pop down to Florida. I'm just closer to Nashville. Nelio has done a tremendous job with that whole roster, with building the brand. They run damn near every weekend now, whether it be Nashville or Florida. And a lot of indies don't do that. That is really special to do. And so they're just keeping up the momentum, and they draw crowds and they get people involved, and they have a great roster. They keep adding to the roster, a good quality ads. And my next show I always enjoy it. It's one of the ones I look forward to all my indie shows, but some I look forward to a little more than others. And CCW is one of them. It's one of the ones I really, really look forward to. Great locker room. Always quality matches, quality talent. And it's always and very reliable. So it's a great place to be involved with.
Yeah,
I
one of
also
the, go ahead,
go
Joe.
ahead, Tony.
No, no.
I was just gonna say I had a phenomenal experience working for them. I'm itching to get back down there again at some point. I was really blown away because, as a worker, you're always meeting new people and having matches with new people. As a ring announcer, it's a little bit tricky sometimes because certain places I announce more, I'm more familiar with the roster, whereas like going down to CCW, it was a lot of people that I hadn't announced before, so it was a little nerve-wracking because it was a lot of new info to remember, but it was just like so well run. They were so organized. Ring crew was like in and out. And it was just I had such a great, like, for a debut show with CCW, I had such a great experience. I also like cannot say enough good things about them.
No, and then the shows are like 2 hours to 2.5 hours. They're run smooth, efficient. Like it is really one of my. I could go on for hours talking about how well it's run. But to save time, just know that CC, if you're in Nashville, anywhere at this point, almost anywhere in Florida, I would like to see him get some more northern Florida in there, and maybe they bleed into Georgia as well because we have Tennessee and Florida, like, I'm sitting here in between. I would love to see, but even like North Florida, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, they damn near, they're in Tampa, they're in Port St. Lucie, they're in Kissimmee, they're in Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
Kissimmee was so fun. I loved it there.
The one thing I will say this, I did the show in Tampa, and it's a cool venue. Like, it's a cool brewery. It's great. But man, was it hot. It was hot. It was real hot in Tampa. But I lost like 10 pounds just sitting in the back. And I had an awesome match. I loved working with Danny Briggs. What a great guy.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
But we were lathered up before we even locked up. We were drenched because that building is hot. It was only in May, so I'll hold off on the Tampa shows until like October, November.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah, one of the guys I would love to see you lock horns with at CCW would be Meadow down there. I just think you two are like two big brute forces. Like, I think Meadow, he was their champion.
Oh yeah, Meadow.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a powerhouse in himself, and you're a big powerhouse.
Yeah, they got some great. The talent is awesome. I mean, I know Madman Fulton works a lot of their shows. I know, Jackal Stevens. Obviously, I just worked Cha Charlie. Alan Martinez is great. I worked him. They have a really, really awesome Ozzy Killmeister as well. I think their roster and what they've been able to build is phenomenal.
That actually segues. Cha Charlie is like the governor of Florida. Nobody.
He's from New York.
Yeah.
All right, let's all relax.
But he is in Miami, the mayor of Miami down there.
Yeah,
from New York. He was wearing a Jets. He's wearing a Jets hat.
He does wear the Jets hat. Yes, you're right.
It's immediate heat, no matter where you are. Even in New York, I feel like it's heat wearing a Jets hat.
Yes, I agree.
Segues really nicely into my next question, because I know we've been talking a little bit about like potential opponents for you. Is there anybody, they can be from anywhere on the indies, signed to any major company, anybody that's been on your radar that you haven't had the chance to lock up with yet, that maybe you'd like to use this opportunity to call out?
I really have loved the work of this guy, and he's another big guy. People always ask me all the time, do you like working big guys? Because in wrestling we have this thing called like big man heat, and I think that is true, Mosh. But everyone in Florida is from a different place. That's very true. But there's but not with me. I played basketball. I was always around big guys. There was no big man heat. Like they were always around. So I was always comfortable. It was never just like, I need to be the big guy in the room. I really think a guy like Sam Holloway, Sam Holloway, WWE ID prospect, one heck of a talent, big athletic guy. I would love to wrestle Sam Holloway. I think he's doing outstanding work. And I've seen some of his stuff. I've watched a few clips of his matches. I think that'd be a great match. I think we would do real well. One person I've always wanted to have a match with, and he's on the indies, but he's also in AEW. But it's because when I met him, he's one of the nicest guys. And I met him. He was an indie guy, and I always remember buying his shirt. And this is what I tell indie wrestlers: always be nice to fans, because you never know. You never like that. You can make a fan for life if you just take the time and talk to people. Now, again, we have to set boundaries at times because we've talked about this, right? There's some people, you give them an inch, they take a mile. But some fans, like I was, I got it. But this guy was the kindest person. I bought one of his shirts and I became a fan for life of him. Is Matt Taven. So I think working a guy like Matt, I would love to work Matt Taven. I know he works CCW a lot. I feel eventually it could happen. Eventually there is a way it could happen. It's very realistic,
Absolutely.
but he was always cool to me. And even when I became a wrestler, he actually remembered me. He's like, oh my God, I do remember you from 5 years prior when we first met. And he's like, I can't believe you became a wrestler. This is so funny. But I was always, and I actually saw him one day in the West Warwick Civic Center of one of the places that we met, which was funny. So he, but I always tell, and take the time to talk with fans. Don't do the whole, I'm better than fans. I remember somebody online one time said something, and I don't know who it was, and it might've been a promoter. I'm not going to call names out, but someone said oh, I think indie wrestlers need to have less access to fans and talk less to fans and be more of a star. And, and somebody brought up, like a Roman Reigns, he's not on Twitter and he doesn't, it's like, oh yeah, guess what? We're not Roman Reigns. So, yeah, it can work for him, but it doesn't work for us. You gotta involve people. You gotta get it. And you can make fans for life. If you just take time, take three minutes and talk to somebody. And just because they're there because they're fans of wrestling and they want to meet a wrestler. Some of them just want to meet a wrestler and they think it's cool. And you can really, really change somebody's perspective of you and make that person follow you, sing your praises, buy your merch. And if you just do that at a few shows, all of a sudden you can start gaining more and more momentum. And that's not just being active online. What I've done, I do it at shows too. And I try to take time to talk to as many people as possible and treat them the same way I treat anybody, not treating them as I treat everyone the same way. And I don't think of fans as below me or anything like that. Or I treat them all exactly the same, everybody exactly the same way. And that really goes a long way. And I think more indie wrestlers really should take advantage of taking the time to go, like Cardona says it, go to the merch table, build a connection. Whether you're a heel or a face, right? It doesn't either or. Build a connection with people because they're not just going to buy your merch, but they're going to remember, oh, I really like this person, or oh, it's fun to hate this person. Mm-hmm. It's either one. So it's very important on the indie level.
And to your point too, at the end of the day, we're all just people. And I mean, I can think of many, many, many indie shows where I went to where, I was on the other side of the barricade and I was just so excited to have a conversation with the talent and get my pictures taken and have some feeling of connection.
That's it.
Have an experience. It's not just going to see a show, but having an experience that I take home with me and I remember. So it's knowing how important that was to me as a fan. It's I want to be able to hopefully give that to other people. And one other point that I wanted to bring up, because we were talking about a little bit about your internet presence and how you've built that over the years. Forgive me if this is an oversight, but have you had a singles match yet with the veteran Jack Vaughn?
Not a singles match. So we have not had a singles match. We were in a triple threat match at Squared Circle Expo with Brian Myers. So another internet guy, really. I mean, if
that's
you think
what I was going to say. I love internet guy versus internet guy.
Yeah. So so that was fun. In that match though, what happened was the power went out, and so for 10 minutes. He just had to wing it. So the match ended up being 4 minutes because we had to wing, we had to just go out there and kill time. So me and Jack were in the crowd on either sides, and he was doing his thigh slap thing, and I was doing the Ben chant, and we were just going back and forth across the way. But that was never on film. Unfortunately, it'll just be lost now.
I wish it was. We got to run it back.
I know. But I think the world of Jack. I remember at Squared Circle Expo in 2024 when I first met him. I was like, oh, man, I really like this guy because I was starting to do things similar, to Jack, and I'm like, can he be is he going to be a jerk? Is he going to be you're trying to do stuff that I do, But I went up to him, I introduced myself, and he's like, "Oh, no, I've seen your stuff, dude. I love it." He's like, "That's great."
Yeah,
And we did
he's
a video that day,
really
and
nice.
he really is. And I thought that was so cool. And since that day, I've always we keep in touch all the time. We've done a few videos. We've been on shows together. We have a great, relationship as good friends. And people like always, like, they'll be in my comments, they'll be in his comments and say stuff like, Ben Bishop's trying to copy you, or oh, Ben's better than Jack, or that, and I'm just like, there's no heat between us whatsoever. Like, Jack does his thing, I do my thing. Like, how many luchadors are there that do the same thing? How many guys, how many technical wrestlers that do the same? Oh, just because we're doing something a little different and we make short form content, that we're gonna hate each other for it? Like, it's just so silly. And so, no, there's absolutely no heat. I think how what Jack does is awesome. And there's a difference. We're different. We're not the same. We're not doing the same thing. We do
right.
We're both doing short form content, but it's like our tones are different, our mannerisms are different. We have different things that we add in there. Thank you. I appreciate it. But, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. I always support Jack, and you know what? I believe that more wrestlers should take advantage of social media. I think more are. I mean, now look at Richard Holiday, what he's doing on social media.
He's amazing.
And he's doing a great job. I'm probably missing a bunch of people. And Tommy Invincible just, overnight became a viral sensation. So more wrestlers should, because we can be seen by more people on the internet. Like, we're not all going to get TV time. Like, what is the percentage of wrestlers all over the country that actually get TV time? It's so small. So the way for you to get yourself out there is to utilize social media, where it's a free service. You can put your content out there, and it's not going to pop off at the first thing you do. It's not. And I tell people that all the time. You got to be consistent. The first few videos I did, you got to be consistent. You got to find your voice. You got to find what works. Some stuff's gonna absolutely bomb, and you're gonna get no views, and it's not funny, or it's not gonna work, or it's not entertaining, or it's not captivating. It happens. Look at comedy. Look at comedians. They go up there for years in front of 10 people, and they bomb and until they find their voice and they realize what actually works for them. And that's what you got to do. But I think a lot of wrestlers in general, an ego comes along with that, and they think like, I don't want to put stuff online because I might feel a little silly. And to your point, Julie, from before about being 35 and being a wrestler, once you hit kind of your early to mid 30s, you kind of have that I don't give up anymore.
Right.
Where it's just like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. And because in your early 20s, you might start thinking, I feel a little weird. I don't want to be, what if no one laughs? What if no one likes it? I was just like, whatever. If it gets me heat, or it gets like, fine. If people don't like it, fine. But I'm going to try something and see what works. And, fortunately, for the most part, it has. And I think that more wrestlers need to do that. You got to put yourself out there. I know for a fact what WWE looks for now is people building their brand. And I hear people say, social media doesn't count. No one cares about social media. Yeah, you know what? They do. They do. It's entertainment. We're in entertainment.
It's just laziness, I feel like, Ben, with a lot of people.
Exactly. They want to, because it's like a lot of people are like, I want to be known as just a wrestler. I don't want to be known as a TikTok guy. But people say to me all the time, I don't pop off on TikTok. So because people call me a TikToker, and I'm like, I have the least amount of followers on TikTok, so I'm not a TikToker. But regardless, but I think that like people want to be like, wrestling. It's just wrestling. Like the silly internet stuff sucks. I don't want to be on the internet. And when I first started that's what a lot of people would say to me. And I'm like, well, you know what? I wasn't getting just noticed very much as just a wrestler, and I needed to do something else. So I think what it is guys like Jack and myself are getting over in a way that isn't the norm to get over. And I think it kind of, as many people that like it, there are a lot of people that don't. And there are a lot of people that are like, this isn't the right way. Like, you need to, you gotta just do it by getting booked and being good in the ring and this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, of course you gotta be good at that too. But in this day and age, in the year of 2025, it's not 1995 anymore. And,
right.
and And WWE's looking at social media. They're looking at things like that. And how are you connecting with people? How are people reacting to you, not just in the ring? I mean, think about it. Like, look at WWE. Where do they have their commercials? Where do the commercials take place during the entrances or during the match? You know, so you got to think about that. How are you connecting? How are you connecting with your fans? How are you connecting with the people? That's a way to do it. Social media.
I think you brought up a really interesting name earlier in the conversation, Joe Hendry, and I think that he's a great example as well of someone who did something creative and outside of the box in making music and like putting together his own music video. And look at what that did for him. Just having this. I mean, I don't even know how long the song is. It might be like a minute and a half.
It's like long. 2 minutes long at the most. And that song came out in 2019.
Yes.
So like that he might. I love Joe.
Say his name and he's here.
He's a great person. He really is. But that song, I remember going to a Ring of Honor show in the beginning of 2020 before the pandemic, and he was like the second match. And like a few people knew that song, and he just put the song out. The song came out in 2019. It caught fire at the right time, and he took full advantage of that. And that's the thing. Is like it's one thing to kind of pop off on the internet and go, but how are you going to take advantage of it? And Joe was a testament to it. Wasn't just like a one-hit wonder thing with Joe. He was able to continue. And then people were like, oh my God, look how talented this guy is. You go watch the time up at North Wrestling in England. I think it's in England, but at North, and he had the song for Scotty Too Hottie. You know, and it was a play on, I think it was on Living on a Prayer, I'm pretty sure. Or some Bon Jovi song. And then but he did that, and people like start looking him up. It's like, oh my God. And then he had a song, he did the song with at TNA, which really got people to pay attention, against AJ Francis. The Creed song. So it's just like, this guy is extremely talented. And then obviously his theme song pops off, and then it was just, you know, a snowball effect from there. And in a year, the guy was the most popular wrestler on the internet in a year. So
and wrestled at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, like in the span of a year. That's insane.
And the people that take that away from him, like, get over yourself. Like you have like, oh, he got squashed in 5 minutes, buddy. I don't care. Sign me up. Like, I don't like WrestleMania, walking down that ramp that not like a sliver percentage of people will ever get to do in their life. Like, and I go against one of the greatest of all, who's going to go down as a top 10, possibly top 5 of all time, and Randy Orton. Like, sign me up. Like, I don't think fine. Sure. Like, you know, it's so ridiculous, because you know, people like to move goalposts, but regardless, that's a discussion for another day. But I'm so happy to see what he did. You know, the guy works extremely hard. I know he's putting the work over the past year, just continuing to improve. And he's another guy. It's like an inspiration to watch, and a guy like Joe Hendry.
You know, one of the things I want to circle back a little bit, because you were talking about, you know, being out there and promoting yourself, and a lot of maybe old timers maybe have that old school mentality of like, you need to be a star, you need to be this, be this. But obviously we're in 2025 and things have changed dramatically. And I've been in the seats watching shows where I've done some interviews before then and just change and put the baseball cap on the t-shirt. And I've literally heard fans say, oh, I hope XXX is here today, or ZYY is here today, because that's who I came to see. And they're there at their merchandise booths after the show. And like, they build the fans, they build the following by doing those like little things of coming out and talking to the fans, like you were saying. And I just kind of want to reiterate on that point of like, I've seen it firsthand, kind of just being incognito and undercover, you know, as a fan, just listening to what people are saying. And I'm like, what these people are doing that are selling all this merch and making the money at the shows is what maybe other people don't want to do, as far as like being a star or whatever. And they're becoming the stars, and they're becoming popular by doing these extra things, by going out there and doing what you're talking about.
Cardona says it. He said it before. He's like, I hate going to shows, and I hate seeing guys in the back 2 hours before when doors open and they're calling their match. It's like, yeah, you got to have a good match, and you got to and that's important. But like, what's more important is making a connection with the fans. So don't worry about like take 30 minutes and go out there and either sell merch or talk to fans and build a connection. Like that shouldn't have any hindrance on your 8-minute match. You should be able to figure it out. Like you should be able to figure out your match out without having to go over it for 2 hours, so because that's at the end of the day, that's what's going to get people to continue coming to the show. Yes, the wrestling is extremely important. And that's what you should focus on that. But these individuals, it's not WWE, and they're not going to a TV where they know I'm not going to meet anybody. I'm not going to meet any of the wrestlers. They're going to these indie shows to interact, and because that's a thing, because it's affordable. And they can bring their kids, and they know that the wrestlers will either be out before the show, intermission, after the show, whatever it may be. And they have that chance, and that's what they're paying for. They're paying for interaction. They're not paying to just sit there, watch a 2-hour show and walk out.
Right.
So, and that's what a lot of wrestlers need to understand. And I've been guilty of it. I've sat in the back. It's easy to sit in the back and just have a chair and, relax, be on your phone and not go out there and actually spend time with the fans. It's super simple to do that, or you don't want to make small talk, or you don't want to talk to anybody, but that's not going to get you anywhere. It really isn't. It's just you're going to get your little payday, whatever it may be. And, then you'll be on your way. But it's super important to really build that innate that connection with fans that will go a long way.
I completely agree. And I feel like you bring up the name Matt Cardona, and I feel like he has been such a pioneer for people coming up on the indies as to like teaching people like how to get over. And like I've seen things going around on social media, not as much recently, but a while back, like people saying that they want to get paid extra to film promos and things like that. And
we did.
It's like people don't think about the fact, like, I mean, yeah, getting paid is nice, of course, but like you said, social media is a free tool that you can use however you want to your advantage to like build your own brand and build your character. So like, why would you not take advantage of that when it's literally at your fingertips? Like
it boggles the mind, Julie. It really
it
does.
boggles my mind.
You kind of said it, Tony. Is I think people just don't know where to start, and I get that. I get it's like you don't know what you want your voice to be, or you don't know where you think that. Like, where's it gonna end up? But you'll never figure it out if you don't start. Like I've pivoted a few times with a lot of my videos and figuring out like what works, what doesn't, and that's part of it. That's part of it. It's like, at the end of the day, like people, if something's not working, guess what? Not a lot of people saw it because it didn't work. Right. So like you're not no one's gonna remember it. Like, so you got to understand that, like, okay, I'll try something new. It's like, oh, this on Instagram only got 500 views in a day. Like, oh man, now I don't want to post anything. It's, hey, guess what? It only got 500 views. Nobody really saw it. Nobody saw it. So like, you're fine. So you're fine now. If everybody saw it, it worked, but it didn't. So.
You actually, I think you said a few things that sort of segue nicely into my next question, and something that we had talked about earlier in the interview that I wanted to circle back to, which is, I think that a lot of times, like, people want to do things or they want to try things. They have this sort of like fantasy about like, maybe I want to be a pro wrestler or whatever it is, but they don't know where to start. And I think, amongst the three of us, I think that we've all kind of shared some personal stories where, like, for example, when I was growing up, I was always a huge wrestling fan since I was 6 years. The area that I live in, for example, I really felt like, oh, it's so.
Julie's getting robotic on us there.
Yeah, right. It
does. Can you hear me and see me now?
Yeah, we may have to play the Sonic the Hedgehog music with you.
Oh no. But I think a lot of the time people don't know where to start, and sometimes it is, like in our cases, chains of events that lead people to the right place at the right time. All of that being said, something that I wanted to ask you, Ben, was how you got the name or got the inspiration to call yourself Big Trouble when you were getting started out.
Yeah. So initially I wanted to stay away from anything big. I was like, everybody's big something big. I'm like, I think it's just so, I'm like, you know what? I wanted to do something different. I remember I was at training And I'm like, what the heck is my name going to be? And I remember one individual, he doesn't wrestle anymore, which is too bad because he was very good. He just lost his passion for it, unfortunately. But wrestler, we went by the name of Vic Ramone. And Vic was like a great guy. And he just said, like, what are you interested in? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm like, I really like 80s, like cheesy, like action, like 80s movies. Like I just always have liked those. And he's like, which ones do you really like? I'm like, I like a lot of John Carpenter movies, like, like They Live and Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China. He goes, that's it. That's it. I said, what? Big Trouble. And I'm like, actually, you know what? I kind of like it. Because yeah, it's like Big Trouble. And then it was just like, and then we just kind of fell on like Ben Bishop. I think we took a name from a Bishop. I forgot what movie it was. Maybe it was Over the Top. Was his name Bishop in Over the Top? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, we just took like two other
arm
names.
wrestling movie. You're
Yeah,
about
Over the Top. Yeah, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Was it Bishop? I don't know. But there was another movie where there was another guy named Bishop. He was like a first name. So I was like, something that just goes together. Ben Bishop, alliteration, and that was it. I just liked the movie Big Trouble in Little China, and I kind of made myself parodied a bit loosely off of Jack Burton in that movie, where he's just kind of like almost the reluctant hero, and he's kind of goofy, where it's just like he doesn't really know like why he's there or what got him in that position. And so I kind of just like based my persona off of that, where it's just like more, it's like a lot less like, because everyone's like, oh, you could be the big, people still say this, like, why don't you be the big, serious, brooding guy? Like, oh, you're too big to be entertaining and funny. You got to be big and serious. And I'm like, I've tried the big and serious thing at one point, and nothing against this place at all, but I did it at Juggalo Championship Wrestling. I tried to do a Redwood Giants gimmick. I get it. I'm a big guy. It makes sense. I was paired with Jack Talos, who's taller than me, and we were doing some gimmick where we were like backwoods-ish characters. I don't look the part. I don't look backwoods. Jack has a big, long, like black hair and a big beard. He looks the part more than I do. He looks more rugged. I don't. So like, and they're like, oh, you got to stop smiling. I'm like, I can't help it.
I have the same issue, a resting smiling face.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't help it. So I'm like, it didn't work for me. And like, people are like, oh, the guy, I made a video about the other day, a guy who told me I need to start getting serious and stop with the goofy shit. And I'm just like, well, why? It works for me. And he called me, he said, I have a bad attitude. I'm going nowhere in the business. This guy never done anything in wrestling, but
that's usually how it works.
That's usually how it works, right? It's because he hung out with a wrestler like 30 years ago. So, but I'm like, that's just what we're in. I'm having fun doing it. So you know what? If I did the big brooding gimmick, I wouldn't enjoy myself.
You would hate it.
I would hate it. I wouldn't have fun. And if that means I'm not going to get a big contract because I'm not doing the big brooding gimmick, if I make it there and they're like, hey, we need you to do this, and also here's a shit ton of money, it's a different story. And I'll do my best. But like now, like I don't want to do that. It's not me. I'm not going to do it justice. And I enjoy what I'm doing. I have fun with it. And at the end of the day on the indies, if you're not having fun like at all, and you're just doing it because like, oh, I hope I get signed with this gimmick, like, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Like it's just not something I want to do. So I enjoy the character I have. Is it different than a lot of big guys? Yeah, because a lot of big guys like to take themselves very serious, if for better or for worse. And a lot of big guys want to be the big brooding guy because it's at the end of the day, it's kind of easier to do that. What big guys?
Kind of boring though.
At times, yeah, because it happens. It happens a lot.
We've seen that a lot.
Exactly. Like Kane, Undertaker. I mean, they were the two best of all time at it. And I'm like, you know what? I know I can use my personality and do something a bit different. And that's why I say 6'12", because I don't want to be thought of as just another 7-footer. I know Mosh Pit said earlier, he said, isn't that 7 foot? And yeah, or Mountain Bike QA said
Mountain Bike, yeah.
Mountain Bike said it. And it's like,
well, he's a goofy guy anyway, so forgive him. Yeah.
So I it's like, everyone's like, why do you say 6'12"? I'm like, because when Kevin Garnett came into the NBA, he said, he's a legit 7'1". And he said, I'm not 7'1", I'm 6'13". And they're like, why do you keep saying that? And he said, it's because 7-footers get stuck into the paint. and all they do is play back to the basket. And at that time when he was in the league, that's all they did. It's like, I don't want to be subjugated to just sitting in the paint. It's like, I'm a face-up player. I want to shoot jumpers. That's where my game is. And so he kept saying, no, stop calling me a 7-footer. I'm not a 7-footer. I'm 6'13".
Mhm.
And it was something that always stuck with me, and because he wanted to be different. And that's what I want to do. I want to be different. I don't want to just be a 7-footer who just goes out and, a lot of my moves said, yeah, it's very similar to most big guys, but I want to be a different big guy. I don't want to be just the brooding big Billy badass big guy. Right. I want to have some fun and enjoy it and go out and entertain people. And that's because that's the point of it.
Speaking of being different or weird or entertaining or whatever it might be, one of the last questions I have for you, Ben, is I love to throw out the term bizarro. And is there a bizarro moment that's happened to you, whether it was something just so ridiculous in the ring or a fan interaction that you could share?
Oh God. I mean, are we PG-13 here?
I
say we're PG.
All right. So I'll tell this.
PG-16,
I'll tell this.
maybe.
Maybe rated
okay.
R.
Well, there's no obscenities or anything really. It's just what he said. So, okay. So I was helping out at a convention. I was helping out Carlito, and I was like doing the pictures and the autographs and that, and taking the money, and paying dues, all that stuff. So, this was like a year and a half into when I was wrestling, and it was in Maryland, and a fan comes up, and I asked, what are you looking for? Like, pictures this. Autograph sticks, combos this. Like, well, I'll do the combo. This is how we talked. So I was like, okay, great. Like, for the picture, do you have a phone? Yeah, of course I have a phone. Where else would I watch porn?
Okay.
So now he hands me the phone.
I'm not touching your phone.
Yeah.
So now I have to. Now I'm like, oh,
No.
buddy. I'm like, buddy. So I get the phone, and I'm like, and then this doesn't end here. So I'm like, and he goes, yeah, I mean, my mom won't let me watch porn in the living room anymore, so I have to watch it on my phone. And I'm like, stop talking. Like, you didn't have to add that part that your mom catches you often watching porn in the living room.
Oh, man.
I didn't need that. And I'm just like, disgusting. And I have to touch your phone. And so, yeah, that is one of the weirdest fan interactions that I have had in person. Yeah, that is wrestling. That's
well,
wrestling.
you paid your dues that day.
Yeah.
I sure did. That was yeah. And he kept coming back, and I'm like, we've had enough. Please don't come near me anymore. We're done.
Well, you mentioned conventions, and I saw that you're being advertised for WrestleCade now.
Yeah,
as an actual guest. So, like, you went from like taking money and helping out. Now you're a guest at the convention.
I know. First time I'm being brought in.
And pay you.
I know. Please do not hand me your phone that you watch porn on.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. I'm excited. I'm going to be there with Kayfabe Cardboard. They're making some trading cards of me. So shout out to them. Wrestling Road Stories. Yeah. So the first time I'm being brought in as a guest. Usually I just show up and walk around aimlessly, but and brother it up. But I'm being brought in. WrestleCade's a blast. I loved it. I went 2 years ago. I didn't go last year, but in 2023, I went there, and always a good time. Always a really good time. A lot of good people. Hoping to get on the show too. So we'll see. But regardless, it'll be a great weekend.
I look forward to seeing the reel about you being brought in to WrestleCade.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a good one.
Oh yeah. No, there'll be plenty of them. That's the thing. Everyone asks me a lot about, like, how do you come up with some of this stuff? I'm like, I literally sometimes will wake up in the middle of the night and just have an idea that pops in my head. I do things at the spur of the moment. I don't plan things out very much. People ask me all the time, like, what, do you have like a plan? I'm like, no. I know. If something comes to me, I do it. And if it works, it works. Like today, I did the one about calling a match, and it's just like, it just came to me. It's just like, it's just like little things and I'll be like, how can I make this, humorous and embellish it a little bit? And that's what I do. And and I try to have like different accents and characters, and that, obviously everybody's favorite is the Shindy God and my favorite too, so that will, and I've got to wrestle as the Shindy God at Rad Pro, which was awesome. I got to
Oh,
do that
that's
twice.
so fun.
Yeah, and it's so fun to purposely wrestle horrible. Like it's so. If I could just be him, I would have. This would be so great. I couldn't stop smiling. One of my favorite matches when I wrestled Little Mean Kathleen, and then also wrestled Mark Sterling as Bob
That's so
Furio.
fun.
We had an absolute blast because Rad Pros, for anybody that's in the Massachusetts area, Rad Pro is outstanding. It's a fun, gimmicked up show. Everybody, plays a different gimmick than they really are. It's like it's its own thing. It's like it's in its own universe. And I know I'm getting back up there in December. We're trying to figure out October, but I don't know. But I know December I'll be back up there. We got some cool ideas. They run very similar to Chaotic. Is kind of like a sister company to them. So I don't know if people know Chaotic, but Rad Pro is just kind of like the the red, we call it the redhead stepchild of Chaotic.
Yes.
But it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. And I can't wait to get back up there as well.
I'm always interested, like when I see match graphics and things for Rad Pro, because I know being from New England and from Massachusetts, I know a lot of people that wrestle there. And so it's always interesting to see like the different names and things that people come up with. Because it's like, obviously I know them by like what they do normally. So I remember like the first time seeing some of the graphics, I was like, what is going on here? But it is a really cool concept to like let people step outside of the box of a little bit of like what they normally do and just be able to do something a little bit different for fun. It's a creative experiment.
It's a blast. I had those two matches I had are some of the two of my most fun, like just pure fun, like enjoyment. Like it was just great. It's great. Again, it's great to be able to wrestle poorly on purpose.
Yeah.
It's fun because then you can just let out your comedic and goofy side and don't have to worry about anything else. Don't have to worry about like, oh, I gotta make sure I get good footage from this match. It's like it's easy and fun, and you just you go out there, and that's what it should be. So Rad Pro kind of brings that out of a lot. Lets a lot of people almost like blow off steam in a sense of like we can just go out there and enjoy ourselves. There's no pressure. Scott's done a tremendous job there with that.
I think as we wrap up here, because we're getting close to about an hour and a half, which is an amazing conversation.
And I feel like I didn't even get into like some of the stuff I had my
I know.
Oh, we can do this again. We can do
a part two for sure.
Something that I always just ask people as we kind of wrap things up. What do you have coming up sort of in the imminent future? Where can people find you, and where can they find you on social media?
If you haven't found me yet, Big Trouble BB on social media across all platforms. I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I tell everybody, if I have time, I try to talk to everybody. I try to interact with people. I try to reply to comments. Again, I don't see myself above anybody. I don't have the philosophy of, on social media, I won't talk to fans. I think that's kind of bogus. It's just my own personal thought. So I try to speak to everybody and so interact, be respectful. Boundaries as well. Boundaries because I can't spend my whole day talking to people. But I got a lot of cool things coming up. I will be I'm actually wrestling on University of Alabama's campus on September 11th. I have a really interesting match on September 13th in Texas. I'm wrestling Psycho Clown. So we'll see. That's an interesting one. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, he's a major star, and it's in Alton, Texas, which is like very close to the border. So that's going to be a heck of a crowd. It's like a lucha show. How did I fall into it? No idea. So I am going to be, but I will be there. My flight is taken care of, and I'm going to show up, and it's going to be fun. I mean, he's a rock star in Mexico, and I'm sure it's going to be an awesome crowd. So I'm doing that. Then I got a full weekend. Pennsylvania 9/19 at ACW, Red Lion, PA, and then shooting up to Focus Pro Wrestling on September 20th. And something that hasn't been announced yet, but September 21st, I will be in New Jersey at WrestlePro. So that is happening as well.
Ooh.
That was one that hasn't been announced. You just
That's
heard
a
it first
great
here.
show, though. It's shaping up to be a great show.
Cross and Holiday at the top of the card would be awesome. Happy to get to be there just for that, which will be great. I have not a clue what I'm doing yet, but I will be there. And then rounding out the month in North Carolina, in Tennessee for CCW on the 26th, and a Newborn Wrestling, another debut in North Carolina. So all different states, which I think is pretty cool for this month coming up. I have not one state is the same. Not one state is Georgia, where I live. So
That's crazy, right?
yeah. So I have a ton of new states coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of new opponents, and of course the looming question is, what will I hear back from WWE? And what I keep saying is, I'll hear it when I hear it. Again, just going to keep doing my thing. It's you can't sit here and just play the waiting game. It's wrestling again is hurry up and wait. So that's what you got to do. Just hurry up and wait. So I will continue doing my thing on the indies until I can't anymore. Whatever it may be. So yeah, that's my spiel.
And Julie, what cool stuff do you have coming up?
So a couple things that I have on the calendar thus far. I will be returning next Saturday to Rebel Spirit Pro Wrestling. That's going to be in East Brookfield, Massachusetts. We haven't been to that particular venue since January, so it'll be exciting to circle back there and see some of the fans that maybe you haven't gotten the chance to see in a little while. I'm also going to be working for Rebel Spirit on Saturday the 13th, and that's at our home base, Tackle Box Brewing in Marlborough, Massachusetts. I'm going to be returning to Exodus Pro Wrestling, one of the territories of the NWA right here in Cleveland. Nice. And that is for Hexodus on Saturday, October 11th. I have a couple other things in the works in the meantime that I'm not quite ready to announce yet, but I will be on my social media as soon as I'm able to. This NWA zip-up, actually, the back of it's really cool as well. You can't really see on camera, but it has the NWA power, and it's also very comfortable. I like that. It's also very comfortable. But
Mosh Pit brought up that comment like right off the start, and I just remembered now.
Yeah. But I will be sharing more on my social media, which is at the Crown Jewels. Crown is with an E at the end. It's the old English spelling. That's just how we roll here. And so I'll post more updates as I am able to share them.
Awesome.
Yes, and for us here on Tone and Entertainment, we will be back at One Fall Wrestling next Friday in Watkinsville, Georgia.
I got to show up to that at some point. I'm down the road.
I want to show up at some point too. I'm dying to get down there.
Yeah, it's been like amazing. It's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, you guys have great stuff going on. Good stuff.
And we have some TV tapings in the can as well too. So that's going to be on Peachtree Sports coming up very soon. So that's really cool. So and then plus my interview with Jeff Jarrett just recently came out on Instagram, which was, he called me slap nuts. It was amazing.
No, that's worth it.
Yes, it was worth it. Yeah,
I love Jeff Jarrett.
I was like,
Did you guys happen to see his babysitter just got engaged?
You did, yeah. Good for her. What has she been up to?
Good for. I don't know. She's been like, I guess at some going to some NFL games.
Yeah, that's cool. Good for her. Cool. Yeah, I'm happy she's doing something. She's getting herself out there.
Me too.
I got
pink sweater, Julie.
I am working
NWA merch site, I believe. I think it was like $35.
That's a steal.
I remember it's very comfortable. I wear this all the time.
I'm working Jeff Jarrett's show October 23rd.
The debut show,
Big Fest.
Oh.
Yes, yeah.
I will be there as well. I politicked my way onto that show as well. So it's the way to do it.
Very nice. Yeah, that's his debut show out there in Tennessee.
Yeah, Jeff's the man. Double J's the best. He's one of my favorites.
Big matches on that show.
Big match.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's a stack card already. Definitely out there. It's going to be cool. So anyways, to wrap up, Julie, thank you so much for co-hosting with me as always.
Thank you, Tony. And Ben, thank you so much for joining us as our guest today.
I
feel like we could go on forever, and so we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point. But
we will.
Best of luck with everything. We will all be keeping an eye on your Instagram, and maybe for those of the people,
I'll make sure you keep an eye on my Instagram. Believe me.
for those people that think you're a TikToker, we'll be keeping an eye on your TikTok as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ben, definitely best of luck. I know you've got a busy month or two outside of Georgia, but hopefully, we could see you at One Fall or some of the other places.
I'll talk to the powers that be. I'll figure it out.
Definitely. No. It'd be great to have you on there. The card for next Friday is super stacked already. But I would love to see Ben Bishop show up at One Fall. That'd be great.
I'll make it happen. I have
For
a lot of
sure.
good buddies on that show, so I'll definitely be there.
A lot of good people backstage, that's for sure. Well, Julie and Ben, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Everybody in the comments, thank you guys for your questions, your comments, your thoughts. It was great to have you chatted. For those watching on demand as well, thank you guys. And if you haven't already, guys, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.